Okay, today we're here with Ron Ehster.
Eyster.
Eyster, and he's a veteran that served during the Korean War conflict, and we'll get into more of what his involvement was, a little bit later in the interview. My name is Paul Julian, and I'm here with Joe Davey, and we're both volunteer at the Veterans Memorial Center and volunteer in particular with the Veterans History Project. Today is June 24th, 2021, and we're doing this Veterans History Project interview at the Veterans Memorial Center Library on Merritt Island. Ron, where were you born?
I was born in West Dallas, Wisconsin.
Okay. And a little bit about your parents. Who were your parents, and what did they have occupations, both of them?
They both worked. My mother was Margaret Mary Ehster, and my father was Henry William Ehster. He was pretty much a jack of all trades because he was, during the wartime, this goes back to World War II, he worked on an awful lot of installing machinery for different war projects. Meanwhile, my mother was a clerk at a national grocery store in Wisconsin, and most of this was in Milwaukee. I was born in West Dallas, but West Dallas is just a little bit west of Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
That pretty much covered my dad was, like I say, a jack of all trades. He got into grocery stores. We had a grocery store for 3 years in IGA, and now in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And after that, he took his hand at construction, and we built quite a few homes in Wisconsin. Mother got an awful lot of troubles with colds and typical Wisconsin type headaches.
Mm-hmm.
It was a known area for headaches.
Mm-hmm.
So family decided we were going to take a look at Florida and see if that wouldn't take care of her problem.
Mm-hmm.
I have, at that time, I was in my late teens, and I had been at Waukesha High School, graduated there in 1949. And pretty soon after that, we moved down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Again, we got into the construction business and built a couple of homes, and one we lived in. And somewhere in this period of time, my brother, who was a year younger than I, we're talking about, are they going to capture us in the service? And he didn't mind going in the Army. I didn't mind going in something different. And it turned out that in our travels to and from Wisconsin to Florida, that I had jumped aboard some lighthouse stations, and I kind of liked what I saw. All of them were run by Coast Guard, so I started thinking in terms of Coast Guard career. After, in 1951, I volunteered for the Coast Guard. I happened to do pretty fair in mathematics and physics. They liked what they saw. Encouraged me to go in, so in Fort Lauderdale, I had to go down to Miami to check in. Went from the Miami enrollment people, board a train to Cape May, New Jersey for boot camp. And
What year was it?
that would be August 21st, 1951. And That took 3 months to get through there. Learned a lot. It was kind of a growing, maturing factory.
That was boot camp?
Boot camp was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I was transferred to New York, and I worked the New York Harbor Rescue for roughly 3 or 4 months, awaiting my next assignment. And that was the USCG Coast Guard cutter Mackinac, and it performed sea patrol duties out in the middle of the Atlantic 4 every year. And as soon as I got aboard, lots of interesting things happened. First thing was they worked on my teeth right away. Wouldn't have a bad tooth going to sea, and that was pretty much their policy that they followed. The on board ship, I always got a kick out of the fact that they started everybody, no matter what your training was.
Mm-hmm.
I think I kind of skipped out what that training was. That was in Groton, Connecticut, with the Radio Material School.
Mm-hmm.
Really taught me the basics in current flow, electronics, type tubes, the various components that went into the equipment that I would see at sea.
Ron, is it Groton? When you say Groton, Connecticut, I think submarines. Was it?
It was a submarine base.
It was a submarine base.
But
so where you got training on a submarine base?
No, there was a Coast Guard academy, kind of like an academy. They had.
That's right. The academy's not far from there.
It's across the river from it.
Okay,
yeah.
so it was like maybe associated with the academy then.
It was Navy, and they had a lot of construction of subs going on up there.
Okay.
Never got associated with us.
Okay.
We were all kind of in a minor college type environment.
And how long was that?
That lasted 9 months.
9 months?
Yeah.
And did that, from what you told me before you went into service, you said your dad was good at working on machinery and stuff. Do you think that you kind of got that in your genes from your dad working as an ET?
Even better than that, staying busy.
Yeah, your dad was that way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And taking on different things was quite a challenge.
Yes, sir.
So
that's the way you were. You like to take on, you said your brother was your only sibling, right?
No, I had 2 sisters, Marilyn and Kathy, and a younger brother, Richard.
And okay, then Marilyn and Kathy, did they have any feelings about you joining? Because it was still hot. It was the beginning of the Cold War, and did they have any concerns or anything?
All as I associated with the family feelings was they were proud of it.
Proud.
Yeah.
That's great.
No misgivings whatsoever. My brother did go in the Army, and I managed to get in the Coast Guard.
Okay.
So.
And then with that, did it have was your younger brother, and Ron, did that have anything to do? Did you went in first and then he?
Yep.
Okay. So why did you join? Was it because you felt that you should join, or?
Yeah, basically, you knew you were going to be inducted otherwise.
Okay.
And
might as well have a
I
choice.
preferred the choice.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And the opportunities that seemed to be there. So,
okay. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, he was inclined to just kind of take what came along.
Yeah. You were what they call proactive.
Very much so.
Okay. Well, Ron, pick up now with ET school. I'd like to ask you the type of training you had was electronics technician, 9 months. What was your most vivid memory of that 9 months? And let me more specifically, what was the best part? What was the worst part?
The best part was recognizing the simplicity of electron flow as compared to water flow. It's very surprising to me. And I would try different things just to see if they did match. And by golly, most cases they did. So,
So would you
a basic item, and it kind of leads you to kind of a quality type thing, which I'll pick up a little bit later on.
Did you? It sounds to me, if I'm reading you right, Ron, it wasn't that difficult.
No, I don't
Not
know.
difficult. What was the worst part of the 9 months?
I really can't. Oh, the worst part. The worst part.
When we're in Groton, it wasn't during the winter, was it?
I have to admit, I don't remember the
Okay.
seasons.
Okay.
This goes back a little bit too far.
Okay.
Going back and forth to New York on many weekends, run into some unfortunate circumstances. Nothing that was major. It was just, wish I hadn't done that.
Okay. Does any particular instructor during that ET training?
We went through instructors pretty fast. They just didn't stick.
Really?
They were using them up in a lot of different areas.
Uh-huh.
So and it didn't seem to make much difference as far as the continuity of one subject going into another.
I see.
So
Did you have any particular one that stood out in your mind, or no?
the last guy was real good at
Teacher.
air search radar,
Uh-huh.
and it was, in as much as the cutters all had them, that was an eye-awakening. Pay attention. Quite a bit in air search. So.
And okay, so now you made it. You got through school. Then what was your first assignment?
As I started to
Go ahead.
go ahead before was I had the ship was at sea when I got out of school, and it was typically 6 weeks to 8 weeks that they would be on patrol, plus air sea rescue in Newfoundland. So I waited at this basically a rescue, small boat rescue operation out of Long Island. On or about I think it was in April, I went in, finally got transferred over to the Mackinac. And
How long did you wait? Have to wait? Nothing. Didn't have to wait long.
oh, it was only 2-3 months. Yeah, it was actually fun because they had an awful lot of stuff to see at night. New York was not that far away.
Yeah.
So, on board ship, it was a little more of the same because when the ship would dock, there was nothing to do other than make sure your equipment worked, and then have an evening to yourself. Lots of plays and movies in New York, so entertainment was not lacking. The best part about it was that you knew that you were going to be busy because you started out busy. Even though I started out peeling potatoes and making coffee for the chiefs, but it
So
didn't.
like what they call mess duty?
Well, that was it. It only lasted a day.
Oh, that's not
because
bad.
the quality of the electronics was such that they say, "Get your butt up there." And it turned out that mostly the problems were with the radars. Whether you were in harbor or at sea, that was your biggest problems.
Was it so? It was a lot of maintenance.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Replacing parts all over the place. That got into that quality issue I was talking about, because we would go back in those 50s. There was only tubes. If you can remember the problems that people had with televisions, it was more so with this electronics.
Yes, sir.
So the quality end of it, I found where I would have to go through and test everything I had in my hand to put to use in a equipment that was dead. And the biggest problem was making sure it was working, even brand new, because just the storage could be a problem.
Well,
So,
Ron, would it be the manufacturer just wasn't, or was
Well,
it because it's a budding technology? It was something they're trying to refine to get better?
it basically was just grab a bunch of tubes and go and try and fix it. It was plug, 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 plug. And
Yeah, the vacuum tubes burned out very quickly.
Did they?
I
yeah,
remember.
sometimes they didn't have to discharge themselves very far before they wouldn't be usable. So,
Didn't know that.
It's
Yeah.
not like the solid state that we have now. It's very reliable. It was in the beginning, it was very unreliable.
when you talk about 1,000,000 hours nowadays, it's nothing. you know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that lasted 2 trips out of New York into the mid-Atlantic, and we would end up at Newfoundland and spend a
When you
few
say
days
2
there.
trips, Ron, you're referring to patrols?
Well,
Were they patrols or no?
Okay, on the weather patrol, we would be launching balloons every day,
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 every day, and passing the weather information along to ships and aircraft.
Mhm.
And we would work a grid of 26 miles one way, 26 miles at right angles, 26 miles back, all day, just going around, move a little bit more, you know.
Wow,
And so we
fascinating.
were changing our position in the weather patterns
Wow.
on a daily basis.
Was the weather sometime rough?
Oh, it was always rough. Atlantic is not
No.
a soft job.
Really?
Pacific is soft.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was different. So anyways, after we spent 21 days minimum on that patrol, and then go over to Newfoundland and spend 8 to 10 days air sea rescue there, back to New York, actually Brooklyn, and then Staten Island, where we had a real port.
Mm-hmm.
And Staten Island was fun because you had hospitals and you had all kinds of good stuff. And the ferry that took you to the lower end of Manhattan, and from there you could have a splendid time if you so desired.
Mhm.
You had to walk a lot, but
Mhm.
that was okay.
So you did weather patrols, and then you did search and when you not search, but you did the you go up to
Yeah.
Newfoundland, and then what would you do there again?
Okay. In Argentia, you basically just sit there
Mm-hmm.
and
Be on
wait
call.
on calls. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a
So-
big one on the second trip that I was there. A Norwegian tanker was on fire. Captain somehow or other got a heart attack. We had a doctor on that trip, so we went out and got the doctor off the ship and brought him in. So almost every time something would be happening. It was not a dull world at all.
Yeah. And how many trips like that did you make?
Okay, 2 of those, and then the last.
2 of those about a month long, or no?
You had it with a month in between. You'd have 4 of those a year. So if you divide up like.
So you'd have about 2 months.
2
2 to 2.5 months.
You could count on 2 months at sea.
Yeah.
The third trip was quite different. It was the war maneuvers with the Navy. They had
In that area, the Atlantic area.
Yeah, we went down to Newfoundland and we worked off of Newfoundland, Virginia, that is. We would log in at night somewhere in the bay, or sometimes at sea. But during the daytime, we had you name it, 8 drills going at one time, and it would start at sunup and it would end at sundown.
Really?
So it was more than just busy. Now, a couple of times our ship was hauling the target for the other ships, and on one occasion, this is the one I got hurt at. Normally, when we were doing war maneuvers on drills, I would be in CIC, babysitting
Information Center, yeah.
the radar.
Yes, sir.
This time, they assigned me to, because I had just gotten my 3rd class, I was one of the lead
Petty
people.
officer, yeah.
They assigned me to lead hose fireman. And
That's the damage control party. Yeah, yeah.
and we went. We were supposed to seek out imaginary fires in engine room number 1. In process, got there, checked the door, made sure it wasn't hot. Remembered where to set the hose for a fog. Some of this was new to me. Most of it I had learned in boot camp, believe
Mhm.
it. And away we went. We had an officer trailing us because this was one of those war maneuver type drills.
Mhm.
And in the I was just barely ready to open the dogs on the hatch
Mhm.
when either our cannon fired, which was about 10, 15 feet away, or something exploded nearby, which would not be unusual.
Mhm.
We all fell down, including the officer. I was unconscious, so I have no idea who. I was bleeding. I knew I was bleeding
Mhm.
because as I was falling,
Mhm.
I could feel the blood. And we had the two other guys that were holding the hose and the officer. I could never find out how they made out.
Mhm.
It was several days later that I woke up and they said, time to go to get some food.
Several days later.
A couple of days later. It might have been even a week. Anyways, everybody made out as if, hey, stand up straight, you can do it. I had a lot of soup, and that got me through because I had 3 broken teeth up front. And that was my biggest headache for the longest time, and that's still where I'm at, believe it or not.
Well, Ron, so did after that happened, did they return you to service or no?
Oh yeah.
They did?
Yeah, it made
And how long did it lay you up?
I think for the period of time it's somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks.
Mhm.
And either that or I was on drugs or something.
Mhm.
It's the kind of information you can't get
Yeah.
because they don't do that for sick bays.
Yeah.
So I don't really know
Yeah.
what all went on for some period of time.
Yeah, yeah.
But it didn't help my memory at all once I started remembering it. But I was asking a lot of questions. You could tell they just really didn't want to talk about it.
I see.
They did put me in the hospital for a couple days and came out of there with a broken nose, diagnosed, and stenitis, and a right hip. This is where it gets funny. I got hit in the left leg, not the right hip.
And the right hip was.
They somehow or other the right hip got on the record. So
But the right hip it gave you trouble, huh?
no, the left. It's
The
still
left,
in,
and they
yeah.
put-
In fact, you can still see the marks.
And they documented the right hip.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's the funny part.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it doesn't hurt. These hurt.
The hands hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't get the hip replacement.
Oh no,
No.
nothing broke other than my nose.
Your nose, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
I really think somebody saved my life because the way I remember going out of it bleeding, man,
It's coming out. It's
Yeah.
just.
So
So then you
anyways,
got back to duty, and then what did they? And this is. Go ahead. Sorry, Ron.
within a week, they told me they were going to transfer me to the Pacific.
And-
I wasn't surprised because most of the reason they wanted me was because they needed some electronics work out in the Pacific. So
And were guys like you in short supply?
oh, terrible, terrible. It was. I was the only one for a while, and I finally had another guy, and the two of us were trying to train enginemen and.
It's trying to train. If I put Ron, try to train people that really didn't have the
Well, they
background to learn that.
Yeah.
Right? They weren't
Our-
technically oriented.
Our job became strictly maintenance and making sure correct measurements were done.
Mhm.
So
Calibration
that,
and-
we would have the plus or minus 20 feet at sea
Yeah.
type location.
Mhm.
So anyways, I got aboard a ship in Alameda,
Uh-huh. Been there.
a transport ship,
Mhm.
and they loaded all the stuff that we talked about, the trailers,
Mhm.
the tents, Quonset huts, you name it, it was on there.
Mm.
Well, what wasn't on there, we picked up in Hawaii.
Mhm.
Then we went to Japan, picked up some more stuff, and then we went to Batan. And it's a dinky little island. The people that ran the ship knew what they were doing, get stuff on and off the ship and into the landing boats.
You say it was a transport, it wasn't amphibious, right?
It's the kind that has the flap down in front.
Okay, so it was amphibious then?
I guess you call
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir.
That was a Coast Guard boat. They called it the Kukui.
Okay, but it was a Coast Guard then?
Yeah.
But amphibious?
Yeah, I was surprised to see they had that, but after I saw what they were using it for, it made a lot of sense. So anyways, we eventually ended up, now meanwhile, here I am with these 3 teeth, and that tongue was always trying to mess them up. So I'd end up bleeding tongues. Trying to get my teeth fixed, that became my prime motivation for the 3 months that we were moving around the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, in Hawaii, they did my teeth. And,
To your satisfaction?
well, not really.
Not really?
Because they had to go back one more time while we were still there.
Uh-huh.
In fact, it delayed the ship a couple of days.
Yeah.
Do a polishing and a finishing is what they called it.
Mm-hmm.
And they said emergency on the report.
That's good, yeah.
So anyways, we got that done. And eventually, after Japan got to Batan, I offloaded. Took a couple days to get all the stuff down to where our new location was going to be.
And Ron, was this combat service support directly for the Korean War?
Yeah. This was primarily get that station going so the Navy could continue to get their bombers back at night.
When would they land on the?
No, they would land on the sea. These were really weird looking.
So these were like what do you call
aircraft.
it? Seaplanes?
They
Well, like
dropped
carriers,
the
on
wheels.
carriers. The land on carriers?
No,
No?
they dropped the wheels when they took off.
Uh-huh.
I had never seen a Navy plane that looked like these.
Yeah.
I don't think they had them in World War II, but they had them here. A lot of it was for the night raids because they figured they could do the most damage.
Yeah.
And anyways, they needed our station. Being a double slave, then they could operate off on a couple of existing stations.
Did you provide like surveillance?
No.
What was the mission of the
Is to get the charts out to them, working accurately.
the charts? How about weather? Would that be?
We only worried about our own weather.
Yeah.
And that was because we knew typhoons were coming, but had no idea where they were.
So were you actually made charts then? You said get the charts.
No, but we would generate the transmission signals that would go on the charts.
Okay.
The charts were there, all assuming that our location was proper.
So the charts were a way that they navigated,
Right,
since they did it at night.
right.
Okay, thanks, Ron.
Yeah, the LORAN I had up till then was just very minor because on board ship, it would pinpoint where we were.
Yeah,
But that particular set of equipment seemed to hang in better.
yeah.
Okay,
It's very
such as it
interesting.
was. Now you can picture one trailer full of electronics for controls, and one trailer with 2 transmitters in for transmitting the 1858 kilohertz transmission signals, or it was pulses type transmission.
You didn't have antennas. You didn't have
Big antenna.
towers. You didn't have towers.
No tower. Well, the tower came years later.
Yeah, okay.
Right
But you had
then-
bit large antennas.
Yeah, right then it was 2 telephone poles, almost 100 feet tall, and stretched quite a distance, say about a football field apart.
Uh-huh.
And then the antenna feed was right directly in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So our
Is that
worry,
the one, you use them both to set the location? Is that one where they play off each other, they would triangulate, is it called?
yeah, it's,
Okay.
yeah, that antenna positioning was another art,
Yes, sir.
and how they made it level and directional was very, very crucial.
Mhm.
That did take quite a while too.
Mhm.
So, anyways, we set up antenna coils and transmitters, and it didn't take long to get them going.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we ended up with a. Now, mind you, we were on the island about 2 weeks, and we were ready working the transmitters.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, a typhoon was on the way, and it just clobbered our tents. Took all the tents away, knocked down all the Quonset huts that were up, and pretty much the antenna was about the only thing that really stayed.
But the antenna, the 100-foot, 10-story antenna stayed.
Yeah, it was a big. I mean, it was like a big tree, a very big tree.
How long did it take you? You were going to tell me, Ron. How long did it take you to get back on your feet? Get back up. You know.
Oh, well, almost a month.
Yeah.
And we were. I had my construction operation, which I learned from my dad. I was able to put the roof trailer back together with an awful lot of patching. So it wasn't the perfect job, but it did make it waterproof. So, anyways, I never did see the new trailer come in. They had ordered one, but it never. I left before it got there. But
no lives lost or injuries.
Not really. That I can't remember. I think somebody got hurt running, doing some kind of
Yeah.
running. But nothing serious. Nobody got knocked out.
But I imagine you've been pretty shaken up. Just where could you go?
Well, as far as when the storm was there, we were all in the trailers. That's the only thing we had left. Fortunately, they were on a slab, anchored down to the slab, so they would howl and move a little bit, but not much. I think we had about 8 of us in that one trailer, and that was crowded because there's so much equipment in there. It's meant for 2 guys working at a time.
Did Ron, this is about 1952.
This was 53,
53?
August. Yeah.
Okay,
First of
August
August,
53.
we got on the air and got patted on the back, and everybody felt better. Wow,
Mhm.
you know, hey, this isn't that bad.
Did they let you know the commands that you were supporting, that you're doing a decent job?
The Navy came back and said, you know, we're back in operation.
But as far as when you were in operation, did they say how you were doing, good or bad, or?
Just basically, you're just, you know, thanks,
Okay.
thanks, kid, for being there.
The night
Yeah,
was the night range.
Pat-ons and backs were not very intimate.
Yeah.
So,
Were they effective? Were what they were doing, the night bombing? Were they effective?
I never heard about that. I was, you know, so amazed at how these things would land and how they would
Yeah.
take off, and it just didn't seem right.
Yeah, yeah. Didn't know how they were doing it. Yeah,
It looked like a duck, really.
really.
Yeah. Okay.
So you
Oh,
made it through the typhoon. And
I'm
then
sorry.
You made it through the typhoon. So and you got back up. Took you about a month.
It took a month to get
Month.
back up.
So
yeah.
what happened after that?
We were up and running, and I'm going to back up to that, what all happened during that month of work, because that's when I really messed up my teeth. Didn't know it. Mind you, when we went there, we had patches for radiation exposure. They flew away with the typhoon. Couldn't find them anywhere. We never got glasses. Something wrong with the ordering procedures.
Mhm.
And
These are protective gear.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we never really had any idea or discussion or warnings about what to do about the equipment or the time spent in the equipment. And meanwhile, they were leaning on us for getting everything back and going fast. Yours truly is a guy that likes to stay busy, so I took it upon myself after I got the roof fixed to get in there, get rid of the bad parts. A lot of parts really got destroyed during the assault spray and stuff. And worked the provisions in such a way that we were able to turn the equipment on. It didn't last long. It would pop right off, and you name the problem, and we had it.
Ron, was it difficult getting spare parts?
We had pretty good spare parts. You know, it's and they're expensive. My God!
Yeah.
Back in those days, it was $3,000 a tube, which is now about $30,000 a tube. They don't make them anymore.
Wow.
The voltage was 20.5 thousand volts. And that is X-ray, provides X-rays. So we knew we were working with stuff that was could be dangerous, but we didn't have any idea how many minutes or hours or whatnot you could be around.
Because what the patch you'd lost.
Yep.
And it never got you the protective eye gear.
Well, for instance, I had taken a course along with me. And the course was all along, and nobody would replace it. So I couldn't complain about the equipment. But I don't think they ever sent glasses, because that would have been so easy to distribute.
Yeah.
But all of this was learning, because this was a brand new station. We ended up with 20 Coast Guards. People working there, different work ethics. You name it, we had it.
Yeah, different rates and stuff.
Yeah, mostly
ET.
third classes.
Yeah,
there was only 2 ETs. We both turned ET2 at the same time. So that was all done on the calendar.
Yeah.
But anyway,
the other ones supported the work that you did, huh?
Well, we had to train quite a few to do the. Somebody had to be at the equipment all the time, at least one person, and that was like 4 hours on, 4 hours off. Averaged out around 10 to 12 hours per person, 7 days a week. It's just the way it came out.
Sound like about 6 section or.
About 6 of us that rotated.
Yeah.
During that time, we were keeping 2 stations in sync. That was not easy. That was something you got to be on top of right away, otherwise a plane could get lost pretty quick. So one guy would stay in the operating trailer, the other guy would be at the transmitters. And you literally had an ear against the transmitter, listening for arcs, and then spotting the arcs, and then figuring out
that close to the equipment.
Always ear on the metal. It was a screen time.
That can't be healthy.
No, well, later on, years later, I got the specification. Oh my! I was running 9 and 10 times what you're supposed to get, just during the month of July. Yeah, and they work it on a quarter basis.
Yeah.
Every 3 months, it's so many Redskins. But it did bring out a point, and I didn't recognize it until just about 2 or 3 months ago. While I was doing all that work, I was ending up with a dry mouth. It's something I couldn't get rid of. It was terrible. We had a pharmacist right there, and he said, well, you got to stop smoking first.
Yeah.
And drink a lot of water,
Yeah.
and brush your teeth a little.
Yeah.
So that was his cure. It didn't help.
Yeah.
What helped was getting the equipment running and getting away from it.
Yeah.
But I just learned about during. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because
Okay.
I got to get to some of the good news.
Okay.
Uh,
So once you got back up and running, and then you were telling me how you were keeping how it was imperative that it's like 24/7 to watch the equipment, how close you had to be by the equipment. So then what?
Although that closeness was like 20% of the time. You didn't have to be there
Yeah.
constant.
Yeah.
But even that adds up.
Yeah. And so, any kind of stories about, how much longer were you there after the typhoon?
Roughly 8.5 months.
8.5
months
months.
more, yeah.
Anything, observations or stories about the service?
It was,
Overall, was it a positive experience?
for me it was.
Yeah.
I had learned I definitely wasn't going to stay in the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
So, and that could be positive. I would say there were more positives after the service. And there is a little bit of a story here before. In April of '54,
Now, this is last year. Yeah,
Yeah.
last year around.
I was sent back to the backtrack, Alameda, back to Miami.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And before I got to Miami, I took 30 days leave because I had like 30 or 40 coming.
Mm-hmm.
We've got that lovely lady and I got married then, and we had that gives me an opportunity to go back and say how.
Let's see, bro. Tell me if you get a.
Just move it this way a little bit. There, that's good.
That's good. And Ron, tell me about this lovely lady.
I had met her on my third leave at New Year's Eve on '52. Oh, excuse me, that was '53. As the year changed, '52 to '53,
Mm-hmm.
I met her, and it was an instant, you might call a hit.
Yeah.
We dated for 3 or 4 days, said we weren't going to get serious,
Mm-hmm.
and turned around and said, well, next time you come home, we're going to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we left it. But
So you had to go back to the Pacific, or no?
no, this is just before
You get
war
out.
maneuvers
Oh, okay.
off of Norfolk.
Mm-hmm.
So she got the benefit of how I looked before a broken nose.
Mhm.
So she had not much to remember. That was
Mhm.
still pretty much me. So when I got back, it amazed me that she had waited for me
How long did she wait for you?
a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
What was her name?
her name? Was Karen.
Karen. Okay.
Yeah. Used to be Karen Joan, and then it became Karen Banning
Mhm.
Ehster.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's my sweetie.
And so you went back. You went to Alameda, then you went back to Miami.
Went to Miami. No, didn't go to Miami. I went right home.
Oh, okay.
Took the leave, got married, and we.
This is when you're still in the service.
Yeah, got 3 or 4 months to
Yeah.
go. So, anyways, we picked a place, knowing we were going to finish up in Miami. We rented a house down in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Moved there, spent a lot of time with the families.
Mhm.
It again was a rescue Miami Beach base,
Mhm.
and worked there was.
You were attached there, huh?
Yeah, that's getting out.
Mm-hmm.
2 things to remember for me is that I had 2 more shots at a dentist, and this time I had almost all of my old fillings had to be replaced.
Mhm.
It didn't occur to me, that was unusual.
Mhm.
And then 3 months later, as you're checking out, they give you another dental. The Coast Guard always paid a lot of attention to
Dental.
teeth.
Yeah, Navy did too. Yeah.
Strict requirements there.
Navy
Anyways,
did too.
I got out and I had 2 more cavities. So I'm thinking to myself, boy, I tell you, they're going faster than
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
I had been told that I would probably lose all my teeth while I
Mhm.
was in the service.
Mhm.
So I wasn't too surprised by what was happening.
Mhm.
My surprise is today, because I find out that most of it is associated with the ionic radiation that I was exposed to in the LORAN business. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, trying to get my coverage from the service
Yeah.
for my teeth. I'd like to be able to eat another steak.
Ron, before we leave on the military service, did you able to make friendships, and did you have camaraderie while you were serving? Did you maybe make any friendships?
I had a couple of guys up in New York that I had visited during my career with Honeywell. Out of college. And that reminds me, some of the real good news about the service is that they do support you for going to college. And while I'm in here, I'm going to make a plug that that if the VA can help make college of your choice where the costs can be at minimum, would be a real help.
Okay.
But
Did you stay in touch with the friends that you made? Did you?
A couple of guys in New York that
Yeah.
I got to see.
Stayed in touch?
Every time I'd make a trip up that direction. Yeah.
And do you recall while you're during your service, both in the Atlantic side and the Pacific, was anything particularly humorous or unusual that you recall?
Not really.
Okay. Okay. What do you think, Ron? I know that there's not so good a experiences, but as far as is there any kind of what was the best part of your service experience?
School. It was always fun at the rescue centers. The small boats are very appealing, both in Miami and New York.
Uh-huh.
I didn't mind. I liked sea duty. One of the things I remember is I was the only guy that would climb the mast and work on the rescue on the antennas. So, and we had one nice experience. A synchro went out on the air search radar. Oh, is that a devil to work on when the ship is going?
Yin and yang, and yeah.
Anyways, Air Force flew a B-17. It goes back a ways. Flew out a synchro because our spares didn't have one. They hardly ever go. And dropped it in the water, and we picked it up, and I put it in.
That's how you got it.
And it worked. So
that's how you got it.
That's how we got
amazing.
it. Out the middle of the Atlantic.
Oh, wow.
300 miles from Greenland.
Oh, wow.
So,
now, let's go. Do you recall the date your service ended? Where were you when your service ended? Can you recall?
my wife and I went and sat on the bay in Miami. It wasn't far from our house. We walked down there. We sat there. We just mooned over the beauty. We sat there quite a while, chit-chatting, and watched the moon come up. So that was my going away experience. We moved within a week out to Albuquerque. My desire to improve myself was such that the United States had allowed teachers from Germany that were in the physics business and the nuclear business to sit in Mexico until they were allowed to come in to New Mexico at the university. And I was desperate at that time to pick up their knowledge. It didn't happen, so I came back to Florida, University of Florida, and that's where the VA sponsored college tuition, helped me with living costs, etc. Certainly when the kids came along, we had 5 children, 3 of them while I was in school.
Wow.
And it worked very beautifully.
So the GI Bill or the support you got for the Veterans Administration really was helpful, huh?
Very much so.
And
The health part of it is touch and go. There would be periods of time where I would be between work, and I would get some bad news, like when I went in to get teeth. They said, "Well, we don't do teeth unless you're 100% disabled." Well, I wasn't going to help. Are you kidding? So I just ignored that. Came back another time, and they said, "Well, you can do glasses." So they gave me glasses, but still no teeth. And recent years, when we turned 85, asked for help for the wife, and they supported me there. And they helped me with tinnitus. They helped me with hearing, and then I ran into what I like to call the systemic roadblock, called, "Oh, you can't have that," so they took it away. And that's been like that for 4 years. Just last December, they gave me a clearance on my nose. Yes, you broke it in the service. We'll help you there. Currently, I have 10% for tinnitus, 10% for broken nose. And they're working on a lot of paperwork to see if I can't get some more. Meanwhile, they don't want to talk about my loss of teeth. So it's
still the roadblock.
It's stuck right there. And I added a different name to it. I call that my systemic. What do you call it when you have a bankruptcy? Bankruptcy.
I don't know.
I've added my own term to it. I call it a systemic bankruptcy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It started on a wall, but that didn't sound enough.
Yes, sir.
You could cut that out.
When you going back when you have to get out of the service, you say you returned in the general area where your relatives were, and then you went out to New Mexico.
Yeah.
And was that like to go to college, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just didn't work out.
They just didn't know when they were going to get those professors in to do the teaching.
I see.
And then they raised the rates. That was part of the reason I made that suggestion.
So the readjustment of civilian life was kind of tough, right? Or no?
I never considered
Not really?
any of it tough. It was just another challenge.
Did Ron? How do you think the service changed you?
It grows you up quicker.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Terribly
yes,
quicker.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
When we talked about friendships, did you maintain any friendships after the service?
Not really.
Not really?
Not really.
Did the service affect the way that you relate to others?
Got to, but I can't really get specific.
It did. You think it shaped the way you related to others? You know, the way you communicated, the way you held yourself, the way, you know.
I don't think there's, I
significant.
don't believe I've made many changes in that type of.
Just through the service? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
What happened was going to happen.
Do you think that 3 years you were in, do you think that it affected, it had a significant impact on your life? not just the physical injuries, but just being through the experience. Yeah. You think it did? Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah. And so suffices to say, it made it more difficult.
Well, the thing that I look back on and I can see where I probably would have done things differently was first in connection with some work I was doing with NASA.
Mm-hmm.
I had really pushed for a viewing system for underneath the aircrafts to keep track of any damage to the wheel housings.
Mm-hmm.
And I pushed and pushed, and all of a sudden it didn't matter. And that struck me, wow, that's not me, you know.
And would this be like for a safety concern, or?
It's one of the. It wasn't much further after that one flew apart in Texas.
Yeah.
Over Texas, more for that reason.
Yeah.
Because the camera, the capability was there. You know, I had it all designed and everything, and I just couldn't sell it to anybody.
Yeah, they couldn't get them to implement it.
They bought it afterwards, but
Yeah.
that's
They
kind
couldn't
of
get
typical.
Yeah, couldn't get them to implement it.
No.
Yeah.
And it worried me later because why I didn't push it harder.
Did you were working at NASA then, huh?
Worked with it was a Honeywell.
Honeywell.
Yeah, and a little bit with Motorola, not much.
Was this like spacecraft or no?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to be out there. Sometimes called
Impressive.
for an abort, sometimes not.
Wow.
So,
Both manned and unmanned.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly the early phases were you were lucky if you could put a monkey on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Were there any life lessons that you learned from military service? Do you think?
Oh goodness, yeah.
That you want to pass on to, like, your a son or daughter or cousin or niece or nephew, anything?
Yeah, quality makes a difference.
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
Not just
to learn.
slapping something together. You got to make sure it.
In anything that's going on, quality, and even in today's world, if quality had the bottom line, it'd be a lot different.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Both from a standpoint of being better for people, but also in safety reasons.
Any reason.
All kinds of
All
ways.
walks of life.
Yes,
yeah,
sir. Did the service impact your feelings about the war or military in general?
yeah. Well, I still like Batan.
Yeah.
Go get him. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I gotta say something though, because when the veterans were coming out of Vietnam,
Yeah.
that was terrible. That was terrible, and I couldn't ever, put my finger on just why.
Mm-hmm.
Must have been run just terribly. So
And I think, what would you say, Ron? It was that a lot of the public didn't know how military worked, in that they didn't realize that it wasn't a bunch of generals and admirals that sent the boys and girls over there to prosecute a war. They didn't realize that it's their elected officials that sent them over there. I don't think a lot of people realize that.
it's kind of more than that though. Like, why the heck would France bail out of Vietnam and we pick it up? Why? And we do the same thing
Yeah.
and now we're bailing out.
So now you're basically, Ron, now digressing. That's kind of like your feelings about war. It doesn't. That is kind of what I was looking for. Sometimes you wonder. So.
Well, I got awful close to the CIA on a couple of occasions, and it's not necessarily unpleasant. It's just strange.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah.
But,
Would any message you'd like to leave for future generations?
just God bless America.
That's great, Ron. And just I got about 3 more. What would you like people to know or remember from your story? What would you like them to know about this story that we're recording? Anything? What's the main thing that you want people to take from this story, that your story?
It's just that it can be better, and persistence will probably make it better, and if it's at the right place. And there's a lot of opportunities right now for the VA to get a new grasp of things.
To fix things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you wish more people knew about veterans?
Well,
You mentioned about just a minute or two ago about the Vietnam veterans coming home, the way they were treated, and anything like along those lines.
well, that's probably going to happen again, and that's what to watch out for.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, just do you remember the helicopters leaving Vietnam?
Yes. Fall of Saigon.
Honest to God, it's
Terrible.
for our country to do anything like that is unreal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ron. And one last one. Is there anything you've always wanted to share about your service or veterans experience that you never have? Anything at all that we forgot?
I can't really think.
Okay.
I'm kind of thought out.
Okay. Well, at that point, Ron, we would like to thank you very much for sharing your story. We hope that whatever things that the government didn't take care of, as far as you're concerned, because of your service, that they take care of it, they make it right, and just wish you good luck in the future.
Thank you. Dan, thank you.